I'm going to warn you that we're in for a long episode here. So grab a drink, preferably one with a high content of alcohol, and sit back because we are going to discuss biblical sexual ethics. When I hear Christians talking about purity culture or, following biblical sexual ethics, I can't help but laugh a little bit because I've heard someone call the Bible an ancient sex manual, and it's not wrong. So let's get started. Hello, residents of the universe. My name is AJ. Welcome to Ways to Human. The Bible is full of rules about sexuality, starting very early on about gender ideologies. Genesis 1 verse 27 tells us that God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And later on in the New Testament, Matthew 19 verse 4 and 6 says, "Haven't you heard that at the beginning, the Creator made them male and female? For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united with his wife, and the two will become one flesh." So they are no longer two, but one. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no man separate. These are some of the verses that are always quoted by Christians to defend anti-trans sentiments, disregarding every biology book out there and advocating for people to not be their authentic selves. Now, a few more books into the Bible, we find some more problematic verses like Leviticus 20, verse 13, that says, "If a man has sexual relations with a man as one does with a woman, both of them have done what is detestable. They are to be put to death. Their blood will be on their own heads." Again, these verses are used to excuse the hate against gay and trans people. One thing I would like to point out though is that these verses are deep in the 613 Mosaic laws, which Christianity allegedly no longer is bound to follow because of the new covenant in the New Testament. You will often hear Christians say this, yet these are the same people that choose to pick which Mosaic laws suddenly are valid in order to excuse their views, their hatred, and their bigotry. They skip over verses about eating shrimp or wearing mixed fabrics, but they'll hold on tooth and nail to verses about sexual behavior, all of which are in the same Bible chapters. There are countless passages about how and with whom you are allowed to have sex with, as well as very graphic sexual act descriptions. Let's start with some of the milder stuff. Do you not know that wrongdoers will not inherit the kingdom of God? Neither the sexually immoral, nor the adulterers, nor the man who has sex with men. Other translations call these sodomites, after the Sodom and Gomorrah story. Clearly, this is another one used to justify Christianity's obsession against gay men. Later on, it says, "Flee sexual immorality. Every sin that a man does is outside the body, but he who commits sexual immorality sins against his own body. Your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have from God, and you are not your own." I really, really, really hate that verse. The ending makes me cringe. You are not your own. It's one of those biblical doctrines that gives men the feeling that they can own another human being as property, slaves, and women. A biblical teaching that reinforces the idea that not everyone deserves body autonomy. They want to own trans people and women's bodies, and to get to choose what to do with them. They use those verses to say that God owns your body, and therefore anything you do has to go by God's laws, which are obviously in the Bible and the Mosaic laws again. But anyways, moving on to other sexual behavior teachings in the Bible. Marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. Why does God care what you do in bed? Doesn't he have bigger fish to fry? I find it interesting that there is a verse about keeping the marriage bed pure, but there are 0 verses about not owning other human beings or property. Well, never mind, because women or wives were property. My bad. It does track because there are several verses about how to own another human being and where you can find other human beings to own as slaves, how to properly beat them, how to get away with beating them. Biblical priorities, I guess. But biblical sexual ethics begins early in life. How can a young person stay on the path of purity? By living according to your word. These kind of ideals has led to these harmful purity culture concepts, like the True Love Waits movement. This one started in the 90s. It is based on abstinence and virginity, but all it is educational neglect. It fails to teach young adults about safe sex and consent. Another one of these really harmful movements is the Purity Balls movement. Now, when I first heard that name, my mind went to a very dark place. I don't know about you, but I thought it meant something like blue balls or something along those lines. But I don't know. I guess it's even worse than that. It's actually a fancy dance, like a ball where the women wear big puffy dresses. In this case, young girls as young as 11 or 12-year-olds are dressed in what looks like a wedding dress, and they celebrate their daddies owning their bodies by signing a contract with said daddy that says that they will stay pure and virgin until their father gives them away in marriage. It's as disgusting as it sounds. Speaking of virgins, the Bible puts quite a lot of emphasis on issues related to virginity. If a man finds a young woman who is a virgin, who is not betrothed, and he seizes her and lies with her, and they are found out, then the man who lay with her shall give to the young woman's father 50 shekels of silver. I guess that's what a woman's worth. And she shall be his wife, because he has humbled her. He shall not be permitted to divorce her all his days. So basically, if a man finds a virgin who's not taken and has sex with her, whether she wants it or not, he has to marry her, whether she wants it or not. Now, Deuteronomy 22:13, it says, if any man takes a wife and goes into her and detests her and charges her with shameful conduct and says, I took this woman, and when I came to her, I found she was not a virgin, then the father and mother of the young woman shall bring out the evidence of the young woman's virginity to the elders of the city at the gate. The young woman's father shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as a wife, and he detests her. Now he has charged her with shameful conduct, and yet these are the evidences of my daughter's virginity. And they shall spread the cloth before the elders of the city. Then the elders of the city shall take the man and punish him, and they shall fine him 100 shekels of silver, and give them to the father of the young woman. And she shall be his wife. He cannot divorce her all of his days. But if the thing is true, and the evidences of virginity are not found for the young woman, then they shall bring out the young woman to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done a disgraceful thing in Israel, to play the harlot in her father's house. So you shall put away the evil from among you. I don't even know where to start here. That is a lot to unpack. A woman lies, and she is evil. She is a harlot that must be stoned to death. A man lies. Oh, poor guy. Have him pay his way out of it and keep the woman too. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the proof of virginity, the cloth. This was something done in biblical times, okay? A man and a woman will have sex on their wedding night, and the bedding will be taken by somebody, servants or family, I am assuming, and it should contain blood from the breaking of the young woman's hymen. So this was kept by the parents in case the husband made the claim that she wasn't a virgin, and then they could show off that, hey, here's the blood. Remind me again, please, how is the Bible not a perverted sex manual? Now, I found one verse that was related to male virginity, sort of, in a way. But because of the temptation to sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, and each woman her own husband. And again, it doesn't really say anything about the man needing to be a virgin, whereas there are many of the verses that state that women have to be a virgin in order to get married. All this says is that he shouldn't just go around having sex with random women, that it's better for him to be married. The problem is that many young adults who are religious are using this to excuse marrying the very first person that they meet and who they want to have sex with. They don't get to explore their sexuality. They don't get to realize whether they're truly in love. They just want to have sex, and they're taught that sex outside of marriage is bad, and therefore getting married to have sex is the solution. Purity culture is just a bad idea. It teaches young people that even lust is immoral, that even looking at somebody in a sexual way is a sin. Matthew 5 verse 28 says, anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Most of these verses come with pretty harsh punishments. Romans chapter 1 verse 26. For this reason, God gave them up to vile passions. For even their women exchanged the natural use for what is against nature. Likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust for one another, men with men, committing what is shameful, and receiving in themselves the penalty of their error which was due. The verse ends with, knowing the righteous judgment of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death. Death for being gay. Now tell me again, this is in the New Testament, and a lot of people say that they should not be following the Old Testament, even though they follow many of the Mosaic laws. What kind of biblical teaching is this to kill another human for being in love? If you support this type of punishment, let me know in the comments. God sure is worried about what his creation is doing with their genitals. Now the Bible goes on to let the reader know not to have sex with certain people. In Leviticus 18, it says, you shall not uncover the nakedness of your father, which is the nakedness of your mother. She is your mother. You shall not uncover her nakedness. There is also more detailed list of family members that people of Israel were not allowed to have sex with, including daughters, sisters, stepsisters, granddaughters, aunts. But it's interesting that the only males mentioned in those laws are brothers and fathers. It doesn't mention sons or grandsons. I suppose they're all included in the no sex with men rule. And the Leviticus law also says not to have sex with your sister-in-law, but only if the brother is alive. In fact, a man was meant to marry his brother's wife if he passed away, and he had to give her children to pass the dead brother's name on. It sounds biblical. There's actually a story where this is taught. It's Onan's story. Onan's brother dies, and he has to sleep with his dead brother's wife, but he doesn't want to get her pregnant. In Genesis 38 verse 10, it says, but Onan knew that the offspring would not be his. So whenever he lay with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground, to keep from producing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so he put him to death. God killed the guy for not getting his dead brother's wife pregnant and wasting his semen on the floor, I guess. Can we talk about priorities here? Children starving, little girls being raped, women being beat, slavery, cancer, but God is worried about a dude jacking off on the floor. Moving on to more Bible sex fun. Are you tired yet? There's more. There's a really interesting poem in Songs of Songs. It says, I will climb the palm tree. I will take hold of its fruit. May your breasts be like clusters of grapes on the vine, the fragrance of your breath like apples, and your mouth like the best wine. May the wine go straight to my beloved, flowing gently over lips and teeth. I belong to my beloved, and his desire is for me. Let us go early to the vineyards, and if the pomegranates are in bloom, there I will give you my love. In case you were wondering, the palm tree is the woman and the fruits are her breasts. It's very graphic, but it gets even worse. Ezekiel 23 verse 3. They became prostitutes in Egypt, engaging in prostitution from their youth. In that land, their breasts were fondled and their virgin bosoms caressed. Did we really need the second sentence? Probably not. But I guess the Bible writers wanted to kind of give us an X-rated version. Later again on Ezekiel, I guess Ezekiel was a freaky one. It says, there she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys, and whose emissions were like that of horses. Yeah, that is in the Bible. Again, too much information, Bible writers. Hopefully people aren't teaching children from these specific Bible versions. I know there's kid versions, so yeah, let's keep the children with their kiddie versions, please. Because the regular Bible is just full of God's obsession with genitals. Now this verse is similar to one that I read earlier, but it's a little bit different, so I'm going to read it anyways. In Deuteronomy 22, if a young woman who is a virgin is betrothed to a husband, so she is married, okay? And the man finds her in the city and lies with her, have sex with her, then you shall bring them both out to the gate of that city, and you shall stone them to death with stones. The young woman, because she did not cry out in the city, and the man, because he humbled his neighbor's wife. So you shall put away the evil from among you. The evil from among you. The raped woman is evil. You've got to be kidding me. Rape and cheating all lumped into one because women are just evil. Notice that it says nothing about punishing the man for having sex with the woman against her will. It's all about focusing on the punishment for taking the neighbor's wife, for taking property. Now, incest is also in the Bible. It makes several appearances, but the story of Lot and his daughters is one of the most well-known ones. And it goes like this. Then Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountains, and his 2 daughters were with him. Now the firstborn said to the younger, our father is old, and there is no man on earth to come in to us, as is the custom of all the earth. Let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the lineage of our father. So they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. And he did not know when she lay down and when she arose. The next day, the firstborn said to the younger, indeed, I laid with my father last night. Let us make him drink wine tonight also, and you go in and lie with him. Then they made their father drink wine that night also, and the youngest laid with him. Thus both daughters of Lot were with child by their father. In that story, people love to point out the twisted and sinful woman, of course, because women are the evil ones every single fucking time. And the story of Lot goes on. And Sodom and Gomorrah is all about sexual immorality. Apparently, Lot had two angels visiting, and the men of the city of Sodom swarmed the house, wanting to gang rape these Lot's male guests. He tells the mob of men in Genesis 19, verse 8, "No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have two daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do this thing to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." The men are under his protection of his roof, but the daughters, fuck them. Literally. Now, I could go on and on for a long time here, but you get the idea. The Bible is loaded with sexual stories, verses, instructions, and laws. It teaches concepts about the way women should or shouldn't dress or behave, which is literally rape culture. For example, it orders women to be responsible for not tempting men, to wear modest clothing so that the men don't get tempted, as if they couldn't control themselves at the sight of some shoulder or some cleavage. There is zero accountability for men. But purity culture isn't just harmful to women, it's harmful to men as well. It teaches them this toxic masculinity that prevents them from being authentic. It teaches young men that being gay is wrong, or that being bisexual or being with a trans woman makes you gay. And as we said, it goes back to being gay is somehow wrong, weak, and sinful. We need to shed these ancient sexual behavior ethics. Move on to the modern world with the rest of us. Religious beliefs are anti-scientific, and these anti-scientific beliefs are deeply tied to the current hate towards LGBTQ people, and the decisions that people make are being used to oppress women's basic rights to body autonomy, as well as trans people's basic rights to body autonomy. Well, this was an interesting read. I feel like I need a drink now. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe.